Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradburn. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and today we are joined by a very special guest, probably the most frequent guest in Nerd Sesh history, if I had to guess. Theo Ash is with us today to talk some football. Theo, thank you for coming on. How are we doing today?
Doing pretty well. I had COVID last week. My car got smashed up. Someone threw a rock through the back windshield, and the Packers lost to the Browns. So I have to be having the worst week of any
I
host
can't
on
imagine
this
a worse
podcast.
week. I can't imagine how it could be worse. Although my brother, who's a Niners fan, did say after Nick Bosa got hurt out for the season, he said this is the worst news I've gotten all week. So maybe he actually takes the cake. He's got a real
Pretty
double
bad
whammy.
for him.
Yeah. The Rock, was it from a Theo Ash hater? Someone identified you?
Ooh,
stalked you?
a crazy Bo Nix lunatic.
Yeah, dude. It's very possible.
I think it was probably from Bo Nix himself.
Could be, but he was definitely targeting something else then entirely. Hey, yo. On account of his poor accuracy. On account of his poor accuracy. His low completion percentage over expected. Okay, we're going to talk about some great quarterbacks today. We've actually got a number of big questions that we're going to answer with you, Theo, but I want to start there because we're in this glorious era for quarterback play at the top of the sport. Up to this point, purely this season, who do you think has been the best quarterback in the NFL in 2025?
I don't think anyone's quite earning their paycheck right now like Justin Herbert is. I really do think that I'm putting him at number one. Like, there's just a constant pressure that Lamar and Josh Allen and Mahomes put on defenses that just is encapsulated in everything that they do, and all the numbers, the rushing success, like absolutely everything, the game plans. So maybe it's still them from like a value standpoint, but like the Chargers are 3-0 with the highest pass rate in the league. And Herbert has just been doing some alien things, like that throw versus Denver as he willed them back into the game and got the win was as impressive of a throw that I've ever seen in my life, honestly. The run that he had week one, it ended up getting called back, but like he took a big shot, like stiff armed the guy off of him, put his other hand on the ground and just like kept going through that. Like he's been just at a different level this year, like putting the team on his back with his scrambling, with testing tight windows, going downfield. Like Slater got hurt, and I knew that he could carry them. Like I really thought it was going to be, the run game that suffered, and that's the way it's been. But I didn't think he'd carry them necessarily to this extent. I mean, last time I checked, they were first in drop back success rate. The receivers are playing really well too. So maybe he has a little bit more help now than he has in the past, just on account of like Quentin Johnston being good. So
Yeah.
it's not something we haven't necessarily seen before from Herbert, but like it has ended up being that the team is just more complete this time around with the receivers and the defense.
Well, it's
Shocking
great to
how
have
that.
Theo on for some Herbert glaze. Yeah, well, you guys said the exact same thing. No, but that's why we bring you on. This is a moment. And by the way, I remember last year we had you on. We ranked every single starting quarterback in the NFL, and we talked about the Burrow-Herbert dynamic. And me, coward that I am, I've basically fluctuated back and forth year to year. Oh, I'm Team Herbert this year. I'm Team Burrow this year because they've just been that close. And you said at the time, yeah, this is a Burrow year if you're going to be on the Burrow side. But you were still strong on the Herbert side. I wish I had been because the guy's playing unbelievable football. Logan, do you think that he's been the best quarterback in football so far, or are you taking somebody else?
It's his fault the Chargers are so damn good, man. I think
Yeah.
Theo makes some excellent points, especially situationally. One, who would have thought it? You finally put a competent defense behind the guy, and the Chargers are good all of a sudden. But I think the circumstances do make Herbert look a little bit more impressive, considering the fact that the running game has been so putrid. They're 26th in yards per attempt this season. The fact that they do lose Slater for the season, like, ironically, even though there were some really bad teams that Herbert was on, it feels like this year there's more on his plate than there's ever been before, and he's eaten all of it. You can't sing his praises enough after the Denver game. I mean, that is an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber defense. There are studs at all three levels, and he just persevered. Herbert is probably one for me right now, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Josh, just with like his superhuman performance against Baltimore. Yeah. That to me is still the performance of the season. And then the Jets game, they didn't need heroics or anything like that, but he just kind of steers the ship. We just can't take Josh for granted, but circumstances, everything considered, I would go with Herbert. And then, I don't know, I guess honorable mentions to like Daniel Jones or Lamar Jackson. Like, I think they deserve HMs, but Herbert to me does take the cake.
All right, well, we're going to go unanimous here. I'm going to take Herbert as well. I would say just barely over Josh, but it does come down ultimately to his ability to execute at such a high level in more difficult offensive circumstances so far. Like you said, Logan, Josh had the performance of the year so far in week 1. Week 2, he was pretty mid and really just coasted to a dominant win on the back of the defense in the run game. Week 3, honestly, I would say that Josh was pretty flawless. Like, there wasn't anything he could have done better, really. The Bills scored on a vast majority of their drives. He was super efficient. But he does have the run game to lean on right now that has been so successful. I look at Herbert, and with the run game struggling like they are for the Chargers, the number of high difficulty throws that he is having to make, the number of tight window throws, and consistently just carrying the offense, it's so impressive. He's got the most passing yards, the most completed air yards, most yards out of RPOs and play action also, interestingly. And I just think he's been at the most consistently elite level across all 3 games, and his team has absolutely needed that from him because he really is what's holding this whole group together. And offensively, I think that was the case last year too, which maybe got underrated by some because they didn't have the explosiveness. He maybe didn't have like the passing volume that you expect from like a peak Herbert season. But in terms of situational excellence, in terms of elevating a group of very lackluster weapons, a run game that still wasn't efficient even though they wanted to run the ball a lot, like Herbert did his job at a really high level last year. Now this year, he's been able to open things up more, trust his weapons more, and lead to a more dynamic, explosive offense that he is still carrying. And he's done it against an elite Denver defense, a Chiefs defense that has looked pretty damn good in the 2 games since. I mean, to be fair, they played the Giants this past week, and the Eagles' offense over the first couple weeks had problems of their own, but I thought they had a great game plan against Philly. And yet Herbert was just slicing and dicing him, getting pretty much whatever he wanted. We've seen him use his legs more this year, especially over the first 2 weeks. I just really have no notes. I mean, we are absolutely picking at some very thin margins here. And I also do want to give credit to Josh when we talk about things always seeming so easy and automatic for him. He deserves a lot of credit for that. Like, yes, the run game is better than it's ever been. The offensive line is better for him than it's ever been. Well, really last year's when they started to establish that identity as a football team. But also the fact that Josh just doesn't take negative plays. Like, he never puts the ball in harm's way anymore, and he never gets sacked. Like, yeah, it's pretty easy to cruise to 34 points per game when you have a guy who can also do superhuman shit at the quarterback position and is never going to put you behind the sticks, is never going to cost you. He is averaging 290 total yards per game and 2.5 touchdowns per game with no turnovers. Herbert does have the 1 pick this past week, but I don't know. I just think the burden on him is greater right now, and he's consistently done exactly what this team's needed. He's just impressed me a little bit more than everybody else.
Yeah, you don't want to ever take Josh for granted, and I think the way that the Bills season is going, I mean, this is going to be historic levels of domination within a division. They have a clear shot to the 1 seed. They should be the Super Bowl favorites, and Josh is at the heart of all of that. But he's under pressure 17% of the time, and Herbert is under pressure like 27% of the time, according to the numbers I'm looking at ftnfantasy.com. So that to me is kind of what gives Herbert the edge. Like, again, earning your paycheck. These guys all get paid so much money that could be going to other parts of the roster, right? Like, how can you overcome some of the issues on offense? And for me, like the tackle play, the guard play in Los Angeles, always having to weave around like bodies is what is setting Herbert apart right now.
Yeah, according to NFL's advanced stats, they have Herbert with the 4th highest pressure rate faced of any quarterback who's started all 3 games up to this point.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredibly impressive what he's doing.
Ridiculous
under those
to be that
circumstances
successful
with a struggling run game.
It's like you think about
money on 3rd down.
Not to say like excuses, but you think about all the passes, I'll say, that we give to like a guy like CJ Stroud for the immense amount of duress that, like, he comes under fire for. Herbert don't need none of them excuses, man. He's just persevering. I mean, that's a different situation. Texans have like the worst offensive line maybe I've ever seen in my entire life, but Herbert's thriving, man. It feels vindicating. You know, I know we've all felt pretty similarly on Herbert, but it's nice that it's finally coming together. And this feels like a Chargers team that, with Herbert playing at this level, is a real deal kind of Super Bowl contender. I mean, I would obviously view them more favorably, like you've been saying this entire year, Carson, if they still had Rashawn Slater. You know, that feels like the thing that would put this team over the top. But he feels like an MVP candidate, the MVP of the league right now to me, and they feel like a Super Bowl contender.
Well, and it really is the play of Herbert that still has them in those conversations, because my thought preseason was with Slater, they'd be a Super Bowl contender. Without him, they're just going to be like a very good team, probably win 11 games, a playoff game. Now it feels like they can do more of that. Now it feels like they've absolutely, up to this point, performed like one of the three big dogs in the AFC. I mean, we'll talk about the Ravens. They actually, in terms of wins and losses, don't have that resume this year, but we know what they're capable of as a football team, or at least what I think they're capable of as a football team. But Herbert has just been phenomenal. I've always been so baffled by the discourse about him. Theo, obviously, you know this well, but we don't even have to say it's not his fault right now, because they're just winning all these games, and he deserves a ton of credit for that. But for a guy to have all the A-plus physical tools that he has, when you're talking about frame, when you're talking about elite arm strength, elite accuracy, really impressive mobility for his size, and he thinks the game at such a high level and makes such good decisions and takes such good care of the ball, it's like, I've just never seen the flaw with him as an elite quarterback, and now it feels like with better weapons, he's dialed up the aggression, which is maybe the one thing that you would have said he didn't have at like a Josh or a Mahomes level, and now it feels like he's letting all those throws rip, and props to Keenan Allen, props to Quentin Johnson. These guys are stepping up. I also think there's no question that Justin Herbert makes them look better. It's not surprising when Keenan Allen has more of a bounce back now that he's back with Herbert. Quentin Johnson actually playing at a high level this year did surprise me because of what we saw from him his first 2 years. But I think you have to acknowledge that that is all happening in tandem with Herbert. So that's probably enough glaze on him for now. I do want to talk about the situation for one of the other absolute best quarterbacks in football in the AFC. And I just mentioned his team, which is off to a surprising 1-2 start. We haven't had a chance to talk about the Monday Night Football game. Really fun, high scoring between the Lions and the Ravens. I want to start on Baltimore's side here, though, Logan. Should we be worried about them sitting at 1-2 right now?
I still think Baltimore is a shoo-in to win the AFC North. I think they're a shoo-in to be in the playoffs. This offense is among one of the elite in all of football. They're one of the most loaded offenses I can remember. We always say this, and despite Derrick Henry and his fumbling issues, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are the most talented quarterback-running back tandem in NFL history, and there is just a level of offensive faith that comes with that. So this team is going to be in the playoffs. This team's going to be a contender. It's just how far can they go? And I think you have to be extremely concerned with what you've gotten out of the defense through 3 weeks. I'll give them a little bit of grace against Detroit, but not too much. Like, they are without Madubuike on the D-line. They're out without Van Noy. They don't get a sack on Jared Goff. That was actually the first time that it happened for the Ravens in 4 years where they had a game without registering a sack. I mean, just pretty ridiculous. But not just in that game. Through 3 weeks now, they are dead last in yards per game allowed, allowing 415. They're 31st in points per game allowed with 32 per game. And through 3 weeks, if you multiply that, they're allowing 96 points total. That's the most in Baltimore's franchise history. And just some strange losses. Like, you score 40 points on Buffalo. That should be a win. You score 30 on Detroit. That should be a win. The defense just looks like it did at the beginning of last season. If you remember, under Zach Orr, they were 25th in points per game through the first 10 weeks, and then magically this team just flipped a switch. In the final 8 weeks, they were number 1 in points per game. It was a differential of 10 points difference, 25 through the first 10 weeks and then 15 through the final 8. But it's just everything. They can't defend the run. There's just poor tackling. They're not being able to defend in coverage. Guys are getting burned over the top. They can't get pressure on the quarterback. They're bad situationally. This is the number 24 third down defense, the number 28 red zone defense. And then on top of that, you just add the fumbling issues. The turnovers, I'm going to be honest, I'm not concerned about with Baltimore. That's how Baltimore loses all of their games. As a guy who watches Baltimore with a
Contempt.
With contempt for sure. But I watch their games very closely. Baltimore always loses because they lose the turnover battle. If Lamar has a costly interception, they have a bad fumble. This is the recipe for Baltimore losing all their games. But the defense has been among one of the worst in the league, and I think you have to be concerned with that. Also, real quick, Theo, I saw you quote tweet this video, and I'm really thankful you did because I wouldn't have seen it on Twitter. What the fuck was Marlon Humphrey going on about, bro? What is he doing? That is one of the strangest videos I've ever seen on social media, especially after getting your ass kicked. Like, I don't know, it's like almost like he's making a joke out of it.
Wait, what was he saying?
He was just like making a big joke about the Lions, like, oh, we're not very good right now. It was like Paul George last season, man, after Philadelphia got spanked and he hops on his podcast. It gave that kind of vibe where it's like, dude, you're just alienating and pissing off your fan base. And this is just it's not a good look, man. You just got 40-pieced and you're sitting here, I don't know, making light of it, man. Like, I don't think the fans want to see that. I certainly don't want to see that. The vibes are off in Baltimore, and the defense looks like shit right now. So I still think they're going to be in the playoffs, but this defense is going to keep Baltimore, if they stay at this level, from winning a Super Bowl wholeheartedly.
Loving podcasting that much is just strange. Like, posting on Twitter after you take a big L, like, we have to do it because it's our jobs.
Right.
Marlon Humphrey has $1 million in the bank right now. Like, he doesn't have to face the wrath of the comment section or Twitter. Like, why are you subjecting yourself to that if you don't have to? I don't understand these athletes like doing losing reaction pods. Like, why? No one wants to see you. No one wants to listen to you. Like, the fans aren't going to feel any closure. They're just going to get mad at you, and then you're going to get mad at them. Like,
it was like a toddler, like when they spill their drink. Like, he was almost like a oopsie. Like, he just kept saying, oh, it was a rough day at the office. Oh, can you really be mad at me? We just got cooked.
Yeah. It doesn't have very many views either, which kind of kills me. Like,
look, guys, let's not go too hard on our podcasting brethren here, okay? We know how it is in the content game. Some days are good, some days are bad. Marlon, we value you as a member of our community. That's my take on it all. Theo, what do you think about the Ravens football team? Are you concerned?
I don't want to get too down on them because, like Logan said, I just think they're a lock to win the division. I don't know who else is coming out of the woodwork to contend. And, you know, they're 1-2, and those two losses have been against the Lions and the Bills. I mean, there are some teams that are 3-0, like the Bucs. They're 3-0. They beat the Falcons because of a missed field goal, and then they barely beat the Jets, and then who else did they beat? The Texans, right? Like, those teams have one win between them.
And they've needed heroics in all of them, yeah.
Yeah, right. And they needed a last-second drive. Like, they are squeaking by. And so is the 1-2 record for Baltimore like a 3-0 record for somebody else? Like, I don't know. I still think they're a quality team. Lamar is just so explosive, right? But there are plenty of reasons for concern. I mean, this is a roster that I thought overall was the best in football. I thought they were just going to be kind of cruising through the division, through the whole regular season, and into the Super Bowl, to be honest with you. And they don't look like a team that can do that. I mean, teams that lose week one, like the Super Bowl winner won week one like 80% of the time. Like, usually when teams are good, they're good right away. You get a good feeling of how they are right away. Doesn't mean there can't be a couple rough losses throughout the season, but for them to be 1-2 right now, it definitely, for how high their expectations were, it definitely is concerning. And the defense, like, I still think they've got good players. Like, there's so much talk about, like, oh, Roquan is washed, like Marlon is washed, all of these players are washed. I just really didn't think that Zach Orr put him in a good position to win that game against Sewell and the Lions, really. Like, playing two high shells is great, right? It can take away a lot. Tyreek Hill isn't going to have 200 yards in a quarter if you're playing that way, most likely. But teams have kind of adjusted to it, and the Lions especially are going to be out there with two fullbacks, and then they're running back behind the two fullbacks, and they're going to be pounding the rock. They have the lowest pass rate on early downs in the league right now. And if you're not willing to see that and make an adjustment and get into a different front, like, you're just going to get blown up. I mean, look at Vic Fangio. He's the two-eye king. And against the Rams, they were running the ball down their throat early, and he changed the front. Like he was playing with Campbell on the line of scrimmage, building more 5-down fronts to prevent the double teams. Like there was none of that from Zach Orr. I mean, I don't know if there was a 5-down front. I think there was one the entire game. And they're just letting like Sewell just tee off on Mike Green, on whoever, number 98, with Kyle Van Noy out. And it was just like comical levels of domination, especially when Monty was on the field and maybe they were a little bit more lax against the run without Gibbs. Like they would just Monty averaged over 12 yards a carry. So they needed to make adjustments in the middle of that game, and they didn't. And that's what concerns me about them more than their personnel. They had some injuries. Like I really think the defense can play better, but they're not built to be a too high team to me. I mean, they're weak up front, really strong in the secondary. Where do you want the numbers? Up front. And that's just not what they're doing right now. So I think they're poorly coached on defense right now. And last year that was true at the beginning too, and then they, I guess, locked in like Logan said. But right now it's rough.
That's what I was going to say is you got to wonder if maybe Zach Orr and this entire defense, they're just late season merchants. They got to play their way into form because this was the entire narrative about Baltimore throughout last year, right? Except it wasn't the run defense that was struggling. It was actually the pass defense where they were really struggling for a lot of the year, and they came out the gates 5-3. They were letting people drop 30 on them. And then after week 11, they were number one in every meaningful defensive metric, basically, like absolutely dominant on that side of the ball going into the playoffs. I just don't see enough personnel change to make me think that like this defense can't get back to a very good level. There's variance year to year defensively, right? Maybe they won't finish the year as strong as they did last year. But if this team is not a pretty good defense, I think that that is absolutely a damning fact for the defensive coaching staff, Zach Orr specifically, because that would just be underachievement. But the numbers are alarming. I mean, last year they were number 2 in EPA per rush allowed. They were an excellent run defense. This year they are dead last in EPA per rush allowed. And what's crazy is like the Bills, this great rushing attack, actually didn't run the ball well on them. The Bills did all their damage really through the air in the comeback effort. It was Josh carrying. The Browns were pretty successful on the ground against them, and then the Lions absolutely destroyed them, which is what the Lions have done in recent years as well as anybody. Play bully ball, punish light boxes, just bully you up front. Monty was absolutely fantastic in that game, as was the run blocking. But it's very concerning, I agree, Theo, when you don't make the adjustments there. But I do think the personnel is here for this defense to bounce back pretty significantly. So the numbers are concerning. You mentioned it, Logan. I mean, terrible situationally. They've allowed the most touchdowns in football this year. They're allowing the 8th most yards per play. The pass rush hasn't been as good as last year. And if there was one thing coming into the year that I would be like, maybe the Ravens defense needs more of a difference maker there, it would have been like an elite pass rusher. But last year, they were at least able to get a lot of sack production, even if they didn't have like a top-tier pressure rate. This year, they're averaging pressure rate, and they have 3 total sacks. They're averaging a sack per game. So there's really very little they're doing well defensively, and we do have to acknowledge they've played 2 great offenses in Buffalo and Detroit. I mean, those were statistically the 2 best offenses last year. Not just that, they were 2 of the best offenses we've seen this century. And now there's some turnover, obviously, with the Lions' offensive line and play calling, but the last 2 weeks, their offense has looked fantastic. But even acknowledging that competition, it's like, against great offenses, a very good defense still should not let up 41 and 38. And what's crazy is the Ravens have been outgained overall by at least 65 yards in all 3 games, right? They ended up putting up this dominant final score on the Browns, but that game was sneaky close for a half. The Ravens offense didn't really get going until late in that game. They had a couple of really big swing defensive plays, but it's just a strange spot that they're in. I do look back at the fact that they started very slow last year, though, by their standards defensively, and they ended the year at such a high level. And I look at the talent here, and I just have to think that there's going to be a turnaround. Marlon Humphrey has had a brutal start to the year, unfortunately for our podcasting brother. The run defense really has to tighten up and improve, but it's just not hard for me to see those things getting better. And then I look at the offense, and obviously they're as good as anybody, and they're still playing as well as anybody right now. I mean, Lamar has like a 142 passer rating or something for 3+ quarters. The Bills felt absolutely helpless against the greatest rushing attack that we've ever seen that also has such a hyper-efficient passing attack. They're averaging 37 points per game, but you've got 2 untimely Derrick Henry fumbles. Not to say that the Lions would have lost to them. I think the Lions were just better in that game, but it was the Derrick Henry fumble that really ended that one. And then I do think that although Lamar is Lamar, right? He's fantastic. This past game, I want to give a lot of credit to Detroit's defensive line for this. That was the worst I've ever seen Lamar in terms of his ability to manage pressure and evade sacks, which is something he is one of the absolute goats at. We've literally never seen a quarterback as shifty and fast and agile as him. He was only pressured 15 times, and he got sacked 7 of those times. I mean, when we talk about pressure to sack rate being a separator for these elite guys, for him, for Josh, for Mahomes, like, that's a really bad number for him. So I thought the Lions were incredible in terms of keeping contain, and they just made some phenomenal tackles. Like, it was really impressive by them. But nevertheless, I do think that that falls on Lamar when he is taking negative plays at that rate, and he wasn't impactful in the rushing game. He had negative 20 total yards on the ground if you just include sack yardage lost with his rushing yardage. So that's costly in that specific game. But we can point out these concerns. And at the end of the day, I look at all the talent on this football team, and I look at what their offense is going to do and what their defense could be, and I look at their schedule, and I'm like, the Ravens could lose 1 to 2 more games in the rest of the year. Like, I would bet my life, barring major injury, they win this division. They win at least a playoff game. But that's not the standard. I mean, I had them as my number 1 team in preseason. I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I thought they could be a juggernaut. They don't look like that because of the defense, but the potential is there. And like you said, Theo, I'm not going to overreact to 2 losses to 2 really good football teams, even if it is disappointing by their standard.
Also, I completely just whiffed on the AFC North, man. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, the Ravens could maybe slip up and drop a game, like, in regular fashion. Like, dude, the Steelers aren't doing jack shit. They're not going to win 9 games. The Browns aren't doing anything. That offense is not serious. Like the Browns could eke out a really impressive 5 wins. Like, no bull. That defense is crazy. And then the Bengals, it's like, dude, Jake Browning's going to win them. The Ravens could sleepwalk to 10 wins and just coast in this division, man.
We talk about the Bills having an automatic 5-6 wins in division every year. That's what the Ravens have this year. The AFC North, if you subtract the top team in each division, the AFC North is every bit as weak as the AFC East.
The Ravens, I completely agree. The Ravens will normally drop one goof game, like they'll lose to Kenny Pickett or Jameis Winston, like typical, but once they get that out of their system, they'll steamroll. And honestly, I don't know, not that I want to compare them to the Bengals of like last year or anything, but it's like this has kind of been a trend with Baltimore where it's like they're a little bit like even back to last year, like they're sluggish. Baltimore's going to shake this shit off, man. We know what Baltimore is, and they've got one of the easiest paths to the playoffs. I think they're going to be fine.
I would probably take it as far as to say, even with all the defensive issues, I probably still would.
I still think they might
Super Bowl favorite. Like, I don't know.
I still think they could be the number 1 seed.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to be really interesting because the Bills winning the head-to-head there is huge. The Bills have a leg up now with the early start of the season.
That's probably enough to make the difference, actually.
Yeah, and literally, like, it might just be whoever gets the 1 seed. I've talked about this, but the Bills have been so dominant at home in the Josh Allen era that, like, that's a difference maker alone. But if you just look at the teams on paper, like, I'm not more confident in the Bills defense than I am in the Ravens defense. And the Ravens 100%. Defense is more talented. So we won't overreact to this. It seems like we're all pretty aligned. They have to play better, no question, but they clearly can play better.
There's one more thing I'm a little bit concerned about with the Ravens, and that's Henry.
Ooh.
Obviously, he had such a great week 1, and he's still so fast and agile for such a big back, but I'm just wondering if that power hasn't left him a little bit. I mean, you see him going kind of east and west on these fumbles, not gripping the ball as tight as he needs to. I mean, on that play, like, he could have gotten north and south and gotten just some easy yards. Instead, he ran kind of back into Aiden Hutchinson's range. I mean, he's got to know that Hutchinson is always pursuing Lamar Jackson, right? And those creases are going to be there for him straight downhill. For him to just kind of keep moving east and west there and putting the ball in harm's way like that, it just seemed strange. And I think you can get the mile per hour data and the speed data, and it all looks good with Henry, but like, is he still in his prime really? Is all that power still there? That's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on the rest of the season.
That's interesting and fair to some extent. My pushback would be week 1, the guy had 100 and something yards after contact in the first half, and it was like, oh yeah, this is the most powerful runner in football. He's just bouncing off of people like it's nothing. So I don't know. I would personally hold out probably before I'm concerned, because no question, I mean, he was not impactful at all in the Browns game. He's had 2 bad games now, but his first game, he looked like the football god at running back that Derrick Henry is. Obviously, with 99% of running backs, this is at the point, if not past the point, where you start to expect that significant decline, but he's already obviously defied that. He just had the greatest running back season we've ever seen from a guy who was 30 plus. So fair to monitor. Personally, I still view Derrick Henry as a major weapon in this offense, and part of the equation that makes them feel unsolvable with Lamar.
I mean, power is just kind of mass times speed, and he still clearly has a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And he's always been someone that, you know, kind of needs to get going to kind of become unstoppable, right? He's not really shifty in the backfield. He's not even like crazy balanced like an Ashton Genty maybe, as much as he is just like a home run hitter. So maybe it's just always been that way and is just kind of appearing to me now because of the fumbles.
That's fair. The fumbles are definitely an issue, but it's also like when a guy has been good at protecting the football his entire career, do I think he suddenly got significantly worse at it at 31 years old? I don't know. I think there's a lot of kind of weird, uncharacteristic stuff going on with the Ravens right now that is going to get sorted out, and they're going to look like a dominant football team pretty damn soon. They do have a massive game this week against the Chiefs. I will take them to win that football game, and that could get them on the right track to where they want to be. Let's talk about the other side of this game, though, because we got to give credit where it's due. The Detroit Lions, after getting manhandled by your Green Bay Packers, Theo, have looked fantastic in the 2 games since. Have they proven that they are still a top-tier contender?
Yeah, absolutely, I'd say. I think when you look at their body of work, not only this season, but then expand it out, right? Because it's only been 3 games, and just look at how they've done over the Campbell era. I mean, they've just been fantastic, right? They've been a juggernaut. They've had some of the best offenses of the century, like you mentioned, Carson. And the fact that they're just looking that way now makes me think like, hey, that's who they are under Campbell. It's not a fluke.
Logan?
I'm going to push back. I won't say top-tier contender. That is where I'll disagree with in some of the semantics. I was really optimistic about Detroit coming into this season, and I think this win against Baltimore is really encouraging. The reason I can't get there with top-tier contender is because of Jared Goff. And the only reason I say that is not only because of his reputation, the goofer gene, where we always know that the 3-interception-plus game is kind of looming and lurking around the corner. I just think Detroit, you mentioned this earlier, Theo, about how run-heavy they are on early downs, but this team is so predicated on establishing the run first that I feel like if that dynamic is missing, this offense just isn't good. And I really thought you saw that in the Green Bay game. The team goes for 46 rushing yards total. And so I guess I just look at Detroit just not in the same way that I did like last year when they were at full strength. I still think they're a second-tier contender. It's just like when we're getting into the weeds, I look at them closer to a Los Angeles than I do a Philadelphia or Green Bay. And I know Green Bay just lost to Cleveland. I still would have Philadelphia and Green Bay in my top tier, and I would have Detroit a little bit closer to the Rams, where I feel like if Detroit can't establish their will in the trenches and really dominate there, that's their A1 trait. That's their special ability, and when they can't do that, I just don't think they're a tier 1 kind of contender. They're still very good. Like you said, Theo, I mean, thank God they got it going these last 2 weeks because of how bad it looked against Green Bay. Like Morton really getting into his bag, the offensive line protecting better. But when I look at these other teams, I still feel like Goff is the worst quarterback out of the bunch when we're talking about these top-tier contenders, and Detroit is unique in the sense that they really have to get that run game going to fully weaponize Goff. So they're a contender. They're in my top 10 for sure. They're still a very talented roster top to bottom, but for those reasons, I'd consider them a second-tier contender.
Yeah, that's all true for Philly too, though. Like, Philly has the 32 drop-back passing game in the league, but they do have, A.J. Brown. And
Philly's a little bit more talented to me, and then I guess and this feels weird saying with my track record on the guy, I feel like I trust Hurts a little bit more than Goff.
Well, and also I think you could point to the defensive difference between those two teams. Even though Detroit's got a fair bit of defensive talent, I think the consistently elite defense, not to say that the 2025 Eagles are going to be the 2024 Eagles defensively. I think we'll see a bit of a drop-off from what they were last year, but they're still a bet to be one of the best defenses in football. We haven't really seen Detroit play at that level. I think that they were very good against Baltimore. I was really impressed, but it's mostly been their offense that feels like it's fully back to their sort of machine, normal flow state over these last two games, where last year it felt like Detroit was able to pick up 5-6 yards on the ground as easily as any offense that you've ever seen, pretty much. And then they were able to leverage that so easily into the play action game. Goff just ripping throws over the middle to these elite pass catchers. And with great play calling, it was like, all right, who's going to stop Detroit? That was their formula. And then bad playoff game, defense decimated, whatever. And we come into this year, and I was expecting a little bit of a drop-off from Detroit. I had them as my number 6 contender in the preseason. Still thought they'd be a very good team, but I did like the Packers more coming into the year, and I still do. But a couple of the concerns that I highlighted were the change in terms of play calling, just going from a stud like Ben Johnson, and obviously the loss of Ragnow and Zeitler, especially Ragnow, but just that overhaul in the interior offensive line when play calling and dominance in the trenches were so foundational to what made this team great. If you lose a step in both those areas, that's concerning. Week 1, it looked like the Lions had lost a step in both those areas. And we know how great the Packers defense is, but Detroit was just inept offensively. It was their worst offensive game by so many metrics in literal years. And then they hang 52 on Chicago and 38 on Baltimore. And you look at some of the numbers now, their two running backs are now both among the top 4 players in the NFL in yards before contact per attempt. So when you talk about getting push dominance up front in these last 2 games, just clearing those massive holes, like they've been doing that at a Detroit Lions level. Goff really struggled week 1. I still do have concerns about him compared to some of these elite guys just when it comes to his lack of versatility, we'll say. But I mean, he's been in his element, right? They've been setting up the play action game. He's been doing what he does really well in these last 2 games. And the play calling, I thought, was super bland in week 1. And now you look at some of the stuff that John Morton pulled out and you're like, all right, that's the same tricky, crafty Detroit Lions playbook that we're used to, where they can establish the run at such a high level and then they can do all of this crazy stuff off of that to catch defenses off guard. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me with this team was the coordinator overhaul, because I thought Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn were both so impressive, and you're going to unknowns there. I thought that both coordinators cooked this past week. I think this team has clearly come out proving a message. I mean, just when you look at their resolve and their collective response to really an embarrassing week 1 loss to your biggest divisional rival, to come out and have 2 statement wins like this, I don't know how you could not view them at this point as a major threat in the NFC. Top tier, to me, that's probably 4 teams still, and it's the same 4 it's been since preseason. I would go, not in an exact order here, but Baltimore, Green Bay, Buffalo, and Philly. And then I think Detroit is right in that next pack. I would agree, Logan. I would have the Rams with them, which is interesting because Detroit's offensive formula feels more seamless, more automatic because of all the weapons they have, because of the run game. But also when it comes to just like a gotta-have-it drive, executing in a clutch playoff game with fewer possessions, right? Maybe you have 1 turnover, things get off schedule. Who do I trust more in that environment? Probably the Rams with Stafford and Puka and Devontae and just that elite quarterback play and passing attack that isn't as reliant on the run game. Defensively, it's interesting because the Lions have a lot of talent overall, but especially up front, if they get a Lee McNeil back and healthy and he looks like himself later in the year. But that Rams pass rush is just absolutely dominant right now. So I would have those two teams pretty much neck and neck, and I would have Tampa in there with them because I think Tampa will look better than they have once they have all of their best players back on the field. That's where I feel like I am with Detroit right now. I think there was a lot of week one overreactions. My take on that was, yeah, they're not going to be quite as good as last year, but that game said a lot more about the Packers than it did Detroit. And now, like, the Lions just look like themselves again. They look great.
Yeah, I got to put them there with Philly. I really do. I think from what I've seen this year, like, Detroit's defense and Philly's defense is about on par. Like, losing Slay and having Adoree Jackson in there is a big difference. And I also think going from Dean to Campbell, you've seen some growing pains for Philly a little bit. So they haven't been the number one defense by far or anything like that, Philly. They were last year, so maybe they're still capable of that. But, Detroit wasn't very far behind them last year either, right? Their results without Hutchinson were insane for most of the season. So I think they're there with Philly and Green Bay. I get that they lost to Green Bay, but they swept Green Bay last year. So I think they're right in that mix. I can't put them a tier below.
That's fair. The thing that I do love about Green Bay is I'm most confident in that defense, out of all of these groups. I think that's probably the best defense in football.
I feel like I trust the coaching staff for Green Bay a little bit more than Detroit.
I love the coaching staff.
After this game, I think.
Well, we don't talk about this game, Theo. You don't have to. It's trauma.
But I'm talking about this game for Detroit. I'm talking about this game for the Ravens. I mean, there's a lot of teams that put PowerPoint bulletins on the board during Ravens week, and they say these are the Lamar Jackson rules. And there's a lot of teams that have those rules. And then when it comes down to actually tackling him, they don't follow those rules. And I think in this game, I don't know what they did during the week, what they did to drill it. I know they signed Malik Cunningham, former Ravens wide receiver, former Louisville quarterback. They signed him to play Lamar Jackson for a week. And whatever they did, worked out. Because, like you said, I've never seen the pressure to sack ratio so high for Lamar Jackson. And if there was Hard Knocks cameras in the Detroit facility this week, and all of that was released going into the execution, we would see elite coaching from Campbell. So I think Campbell, he's not a play caller like LaFleur is, but I'm becoming very convinced that he has something that is just as valuable.
Yeah, this is a big statement for the Dan Campbell case, him fighting against the just rah-rah allegations, being a coordinator merchant or whatever some people have said. I do think the Packers coaching staff is just elite, though. I think the LaFleur-Hafley combo, when you're talking about straight play calling on both sides of the ball, game planning, those guys are both top tier.
It's true.
That defense is so dynamic, and I don't want to overplay the Goff concerns because the guy is very good, but he is also limited in a way that Love, even though he's up and down, just is not with his athleticism, his creation, his ability to do stuff out of structure. So, I would bet on Green Bay in the matchup for all those reasons. But, I mean, if Detroit keeps playing at this level, we know what they're capable of. They won 15 games last year when they had one of the most injured defenses, if not the most injured defense in football, and we gave credit to the coordinators for that, but it is looking better on the coordinator front now, significantly so than it was after week one when that was one of the concerns about this team. So it's a fair point about Philly too, because what they did in the second half, I mean, that was really impressive, actually opening things up through the air, but also, as I saw you say, Theo, they were literally running a goal line offense for 2 games. They hadn't completed, they completed one vertical pass per game. Every time that they completed a forward pass, it was hey, look at the Eagles. And I don't think that one good half just overrides that concern either.
Yes. Matt on Stay Hot said that they were running offense to do as many tush pushes as possible.
Yeah. They
that
just want to send a fucking message. Yeah, it certainly felt that way. But this is as impressive a win as you can have, really. I mean, to manhandle the Ravens like this, execute at the level they did on both sides of the ball, very impressive for the Lions. We've got news from another team in the NFC that is on the absolute opposite side of the spectrum here. The New York Giants are already changing things up at quarterback. Mr. Unlimited has gotten the yank. He's been pulled. Logan, you predicted this would happen. It happened really fast. Do you think the Giants are right to go with Jaxson Dart as the starter already?
Yeah, I predicted the sun was going to come up today. This was the most obvious call of the offseason. Russell Wilson is not good at football, has not been good at football. And it's weird, man. There's this weird, like, subset of people that are, like, defending Russell Wilson and his legacy in these last 4 years, and they're just trying to do this, like, revisionist history with Russ, that, like, he actually hasn't been as bad as he's been with the last few teams that he's been on, like, that he wasn't as bad as it seems with the Broncos, that he wasn't that bad with the Steelers. That, like, I get it. It doesn't make sense. It is the single most shocking regression I have ever seen from a player that I thought was a lock to end up in the Hall of Fame one day, like what Russell Wilson did at the beginning of his career.
He's undoing the resume. He's losing Hall of Fame
points?
Yes,
he is not a Hall of Famer. Russell Wilson is not a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think that's pretty obvious now. Like, the regression is shocking, and so mentally you're going to try to fill in the blanks and go, oh, it's got to be this, it's got to be this, it's got to be the situation. It can't just be that Russ sucks now, but it is. And the biggest thing to me is just like his panic. Russ never looks comfortable behind the line of scrimmage. He looks terrified. He looks petrified. Like, I saw Mark Schlereth do the breakdown after the game. That one red zone possession where he's dropping back and he's throwing the ball out of the end zone. He's throwing the ball away, and it's like, in that situation, you've got to try to make a play. And that, to me, is the fundamental limiter of Russell Wilson as a quarterback right now at this stage in his career. These smaller quarterbacks, you have to throw with such anticipation because you can't really see plays developing downfield because Russ is 5'11". The way you mitigate that with a young quarterback who's small like him is the fact that he can run around behind the line of scrimmage and create. Now that Russ has lost that, he is just so limited as a backfield creator, and he just panics and he throws the ball away and he tries to play safe, and he just doesn't have it anymore. And I saw this in Pittsburgh. He fell apart. No hyperbole. Like, he fell apart the last 5 to 6 games of that year. He just doesn't have it. The only thing he has in his toolbox is the moon ball. And you said that, Theo, in our offseason, we were talking about the quarterbacks. Like, dude, you're talking about preparing for Lamar Jackson. Russell Wilson must be the easiest quarterback in the NFL to game plan for. He can't scramble. He can't move. He's not going to throw over the middle of the field. He has one tool in his toolkit, and it's a hammer.
And he did not adjust because he was letting them rip against the Cowboys, and it was highly successful. And then, obviously, you face an adjustment the next week, and it's too high over and over again. And he's just like, I guess I'll still try it. And it's like, no, so it turns out that's double covered every time, Russ.
Dude, even in the red zone, he's going deep.
Yeah. It's the fuck it, Jamar's down there somewhere. Fuck it, Malik's down there somewhere. And ironically,
even
Russ may have,
like, Wandale's not going to go up there and boss somebody, man.
Russ might have put the Giants in a worse situation by throwing one of those moon balls when he got Neighbors hurt. Yeah. Like, look, the thing with Dart, it sucks putting a rookie in a situation like this where this is not a good offensive situation. But if Dart's worse than Russell Wilson is at this stage in his career, Jaxson Dart is just not an NFL quarterback. So it's like, bite the bullet, man. Either Dart is better than Russ is right now, and maybe there's a future for him, or Dart looks worse than Russell Wilson, and the situation's obvious. He's just not an NFL quarterback. Brian Dable is fighting for his job right now. That is why he is turning to Jaxson Dart. Brian Dable sees the writing on the wall. My prediction for the Giants midseason, Dable gets fired, Dart gets started. So we've checked one box. The next thing is, that's my conclusion. Russ shouldn't have been the starter. Russ has not been good for 4 years, and Dable is fighting for his job right now. That's what I read into this situation.
What do you think, Theo?
Yeah, I mean, I think the decision here, is it a good one? It depends on, like, how far back you go. Is it a good decision right now? Like, sure. Is it a good decision to have Jaxson Dart as the guy going in as a first-round pick? Like, probably not, because Russ might have one tool in his tool belt. We'll see about Dart. I don't know what tool he's going to have, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
Like, I don't think he's particularly...
Swag,
that is it. I mean, it's toughness. Like, I think that's the number one thing with Dart is, like, he'll stand in under pressure, right? He'll stare down the bullet of a gun, free rusher in his face, and he'll gun it in there. But, like, to me, that's the quarterback equivalent of, like, some Chris Hogan slot guy. Like, oh, he'll go over the middle, eat a hit. Is he fast? Like, can he run routes? Like, can he... Like, there's a lot of other things besides just, like, raw, pure toughness and physicality when it comes to playing the quarterback position. There's things like sack avoidance. There's things like arm talent and accuracy and getting through reads. And that's most of what it is. And I just don't know if Dart really possesses anything like that. Like, I just don't know what high-end NFL starter or even like medium average and NFL starter trait he possesses. Like, I just don't think his arm is like that. I just don't think his elusiveness is like that. I don't think he reads the field like that. Like, I don't know, man. It was funny that they'd bring him in to play these like Justin Fields packages, right? Like, he comes in and he runs it. It's like, bro, he's not that kind of runner. Like, if it was Jalen Milroe, I'd get it. Like, okay, we just want the ball in this guy's hands a couple times per game. Who cares how bad he is as a passer, right? We can just, or who cares if it's predictable? Like, he's such a good mover that he's going to find a way to, like, make something happen on these plays. Like, Dart can scramble. Like, Dart will put his head down and take off. Like, I'm sure we'll see it. But, like, when everybody knows what it means when he's in, like, he's not going to pick up any yards, and he didn't. He had zero rushing yards.
You wonder if they were trying to incite a coup. You wonder if they were just trying to get the fans riled up enough by seeing Dart on the field to revolt and boo Russ the second he gets back out there. Because I don't know if I've ever seen a fan base turn on a quarterback faster. Yeah, but this was their home opener. I mean, they've been booing Russ everywhere, but
and he just had 450 yards last year.
Yeah, he had zero leeway, man. Like, they gave up on him so fast, which I do wonder how much that played into this. And it does make me wonder if maybe they pulled the plug a little bit quick, because I think we all understood at some point Jaxson Dart was going to start this year. But was that going to be week 10 or week 4? I kind of thought it'd be a little later in the year, just because I do think there is some value to, like, obviously giving him as much time as possible to sit, observe, continue to familiarize himself with scheme, playbook, just looking at NFL defenses, all that good stuff. But also just, like, let Russ kind of take a beating physically and emotionally for a bit. And then you bring Dart late in the year when it's like, okay, this is something for us to be optimistic about going forward. The season is over.
That's why I think Dable is afraid that his job is on the line, because it's like, if that you're just like, oh, let's see what we can salvage from this season. We're not playing any meaningful football, right? Let's just see what the rookie can give us. That's why I think this indicates to me that Dable is afraid that he's going to get the axe. Like, Russ sucks. I know Russ sucks.
Yeah.
I need somebody who's better. I mean, that's why I was out on the Giants preseason, man. I'm not betting on a quarterback room or Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Jaxson Dart in 2025.
Here's my question, though. Why wouldn't you wait one more week? And now I'm purely thinking about PR softball perspective, just Jaxson Dart propaganda. Why don't you wait and say, Russ, you can take on Jesse Minter and the Chargers defense, and you can take one more beating, and then, hey, Jackson, you get to play the Saints. It's like, are things that dire? Is the mutiny that imminent where, like, you're not even thinking about the PR play and how to put him in as favorable a position? Because, I don't know, I think either of these quarterbacks would really struggle this week in this matchup. And the thing is, I talk about the Saints game, and that's like the best one that you could throw Dart in there for as a debut. But, dude, the Giants' schedule is just so tough. They play the Eagles 2 times in the next 5 weeks, and the other game is the Broncos. So, like, this dude is walking into a murderer's row of defenses, and I just don't know that that's going to help morale. And maybe it's good for him to get more reps, but that's a tough spot to be dropped into.
Getting more reps before the Saints game might help you win the Saints game, because if you lose the Saints game, you're fired. You're fired. You're 0-5, and it might just be over for you right then and there. So you might want, if you played a video game and it was on the hardest setting and then you changed it to the easier setting, you'd probably be better at the video game having gone through the ringer. And the Chargers have the 5th ranked pass DVOA right now. The Saints are at 28. So that's essentially what Dart is going to get. He's going to take his lumps here versus the Chargers, and then hopefully he'll have some level of comfort versus the Saints. So I do think it might maximize your ability to win the Saints game, but it definitely does not maximize the New York Post's headline of Jaxson Dart after the first game.
Jaxson Dart sacked 6 times, 4 interceptions against the Chargers. I do think this is a fine decision just because Russ is that bad. And I mean, Russ had a hell of a game in week 2, but he was terrible in 2 of 3 games. And he's just so limited. I mean, this was a bottom tier 3rd down offense, the worst red zone offense in football, with some legitimately embarrassing sequences there. And it's just brutal when you have a guy who can't throw over the middle of the field, but also, like you said, Logan, can't create. I mean, there's one button that he can press. With Dart, at least you do have a bigger, better athlete who can hang tough in the pocket, who can throw over the middle of the field, who can make more plays with his legs. Not to say that he's upper echelon at any of those things necessarily, but there is a reason that he's the guy they're bringing in for their option packages. He is the better alternative to Russ in all these ways, pretty clearly, just with Russ's regression and being such a little guy and such an old little guy.
And I think it has to do with team morale, man. I said this about Russ, with the Steelers. Russ doesn't fire me up, man. Thinking about it psychologically, as a team perspective, dude, if you're the Giants D-line and the Giants defense, man, Russ isn't getting me. Yeah, come on. We got this, guys. Russ, get out of here, man.
I know. But how much does the fire me up factor really matter? Because if we look at the Minnesota Vikings, say, J.J. McCarthy has got fire me up factor to the max.
True.
Carson Wentz has negative fire me up factor.
He's like a wet napkin, yeah.
And I'd rather have Wentz out there on the field.
Well, J.J. McCarthy's fire me up factor already got a win in two opportunities. So why are we dissing his fire me up factor? Because he pulled a win out of his ass with one quote.
Well, he's got fire me up factor. I don't know that he's got much else.
No, but it got them the win. That fire me up factor. So maybe RPOs plus fire me up factor
to a team that got 30-pieced by the Carolina Panthers the next week,
and also 0-pieced by the Carolina Panthers. More importantly,
true. So realistically, I mean, I don't think that this makes a substantial difference in terms of the quarterback level they're getting. I think either Russ or Dart.
I have a final question.
They're going to be the 25th quarterback or worse, probably, among the starters. Yes.
Is this Russell Wilson's final job as an NFL quarterback?
As a starter.
I think this is his last job. I don't think he plays again.
You don't think he'll want to be a backup?
Why would you?
I think he's done. I think this is his last spot in the league.
It's very possible.
I'd retire. It's like Marlon Humphrey's podcasting. Why are you sure you don't have to be You can go play video games. You can go whatever it is you do, Russ. I don't know what hobby. Maybe he doesn't have any hobbies and just likes football.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else is taking him on to be the bridge quarterback with how that ended in Pittsburgh, with how abruptly it ended here. I don't see that. So probably, yes, overall, definitely his last stop as a starter. And we'll see what Jaxson Dart can do in his first week as a starter. It's a very challenging matchup. We'll see if he's up to it.
Russell Wilson, since leaving Seattle, his numbers are just phony. 61 TDs to 27 picks. You guys want to take a guess at what his sack rate is since leaving Seattle?
I'm going to say 11%. That's really high, but it was so bad his first year with Denver.
I'm cheating because
9.23%.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's nasty.
He has his best this year, before he just got benched, right? Obviously, that's all we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He has his best net yards per attempt, best sack rate, and best QBR since leaving Seattle.
Dude, because he was cooking that Cowboys game. He was absolutely cooking. But, yeah, this is the end of the line for Russ. Let's go to a more optimistic place, gentlemen. Obviously, we're 3 weeks into the NFL season, and this is a wonderful time of the year where we start thinking that we have enough of a sample size about some of these surprise teams to maybe have more definitive conclusions. Maybe we don't yet. Maybe they are still going to pull the rug out from under us. But, Theo, which team has impressed you most so far relative to your expectations?
Definitely the Colts. I think that's where you were going with it. I mean, you look at the numbers. Daniel Jones is the most efficient quarterback in football right now.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to say it. Them.
Yeah. Logan?
Wholeheartedly. I wrote down two teams. One, the Colts. Obviously, I thought they were going to be a bottom feeder this year, and I was just wrong. Everybody knows how much I hated Daniel Jones coming into this season, but I mean, he's turned a corner. I mean, he looks great with Shane Steichen. I think they're going to win the AFC South now. The other team I wrote down was the Chargers, and not just like I thought the Chargers were going to be really good, but just like how impressive their start has been, how convincing some of the victories, like the comeback over Denver, the win against Kansas City. So those two are probably the biggest standouts to me.
Feels like the Colts are the no-brainer of all no-brainers here, but it really is so impressive. They are first in offensive EPA per play. They're first in EPA per pass. They're fourth in EPA per rush. And I totally undersold this team, and I've said it many times before. It was really all because of the Daniel Jones tax. I mean, I just thought he was going to be a major inhibitor for this team. I thought he was going to be flat out bad, and he has been really good. I mean, he's kind of just throwing dots out there, and he looks totally in control, decisive, aggressive, but not overly aggressive, right? Striking that balance of controlled aggression, not taking risks, I should say. He's just playing at a high level. And normally my concerns with him would be his ability to manage pressure. Sometimes he can get into that utterly like chaotic mode where you just don't know what he's going to do with the football, or he struggles to diagnose pressure, and he can just make some really boneheaded decisions every once in a while. He can be inaccurate is another issue that I would have with him. But we've just really seen none of that this year. And Indy's situation is pretty damn good, man. And they may just be able to protect him enough that for the most part, they can keep the bad stuff from coming out with Danny Dimes. I mean, this offensive line is really good. This run game is fantastic. Jonathan Taylor is a monster. The pass catchers are underrated. Alec Pierce, I think, is really good. Tyler Warren has been really impressive for them. And they've got a great offensive mind. I mean, I've said this so many times, but Shane Steichen being above 500 in his head coaching career with the quarterbacks he's had, Joe Flacco, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, and now Daniel Jones, it's so damn impressive. And he is just getting the absolute most out of Danny Dimes.
I'd trade a farm for Tyler Warren, man.
Wow.
The whole
really
farm.
Nice of you to say.
They can just take the whole farm. Tyler Warren's such a stud,
that.
dude. The way they line him up
really
at
good.
fullback and use him, man, I love a fucking blocking tight end, man.
Well, Logan, you said after week one, I mean, despite all your previous hatred for Danny Dimes, that he really could be the Sam Darnold of this season.
I mean, he's your comeback player of the year, right? Like, I mean, right now, if it ended, would have to be.
He has to be. Has to be. I mean, the only other angle is like somebody coming back from major injury, maybe a CMC or whatever, but just in terms of a turnaround story.
Could be Dak, too. I feel like Dak has been
Could be Dak.
really good and got hurt instead of just being mid, but
yeah.
I would pay hard money to see Daniel Jones in the Colts locker room, though. Just like watch him interact with people. His Manning cast interview was so interesting to me. Just like how, I don't know, like how kind of goofy Daniel is.
Bug-eyed?
He's kind of awkward. Like I just think he kind of cracks me up, man.
Someone said that he had the personality of a potted plant. It's just kind of there.
I can definitely
I was going to say like a
piece
piece of bread, like a piece of Wonder Bread maybe.
Sure. Yeah, I see it all.
But yeah, the guy is playing like very good right now. I just did a Patreon episode on him after week 2 where I broke down his game against Denver, and just what I noticed was like you said, Carson, his ability under pressure. I feel like his movements have made a lot of sense. His internal clock isn't as bad as it used to be. He's somebody who's willing to get the ball out underneath. He's someone who's willing to kind of take a failed completion if it means avoiding a sack in a way that Richardson was not. But when it does come time to like hold it and make a little subtle move in the pocket, just a couple steps, like he's doing it. Like he's stood in some collapsing pockets. He understands like, hey, if I have a superpower at this point in my career, or if I ever did, it's just the fact that I'm tall with like a decent arm. And he's using that to his advantage this year. Like he has really stepped up or stepped into or subtly stepped away from some really scary situations and been accurate. I think down the field can still be a little bit of an adventure with him. I think he has been protected really well overall, like with play action. They throw it from 12 personnel at the highest rate in the league, outside of Cleveland with Njoku and Fannin. But what they're able to do is just add extra blockers to the protection, isolate Nelson and Raymond one-on-one and get everybody else help. And yeah, just the overall coaching, the game plans, the way they've maximized Jones has just been fantastic, giving him answers with motion, just everything you'd like to see. And then, of course, Taylor's really the engine that makes everything go, that draws one-on-one looks on the outside, and Pearson, Pittman, and Downs are all cooking those matchups, and Warren. So yeah, it's the offensive infrastructure has been just peachy for Jones, which I didn't expect it to be. It certainly wasn't always that with Richardson, I thought, but maybe it just was like him having eyes too big for his stomach the whole time.
Yeah, I think there's no question. I mean, the readiness to execute this offense, it's just totally different with Daniel Jones than it was with Richardson, and I just fully hand up there. My take was like, all right, why would you go with a known bad outcome with Danny Dimes compared to a very likely bad outcome with Anthony Richardson, but potentially something more? And it's been a very good outcome with Daniel Jones. And the managing pressure, man, just to hammer that home with some numbers, obviously it's a very good offensive line, but when we talk about pressure to sack rate, Daniel Jones has been pressured 32 times. He's been sacked twice. He is third in the NFL in EPA per dropback under pressure, like small sample size, but he has been very good in those situations. He had a ridiculous scramble when you talk about just fully making something out of nothing this past week where he had multiple pass rushers in pursuit, diving at his legs. Somehow got out of there and he gained like 17 yards. Obviously, he does have the athleticism. It's just always been accuracy, mental processing, decision-making with him, just panicking at times, and he cuts that out, makes a big, big difference. I will say the Colts are doing a really good job of making life easy on him, and he's executing that. I do wonder if when we take that Darnold comparison all the way through, and they're different players, but I wonder if we do see some of his flaws exposed against really high-level defenses.
I mean, he's not going to be
coaches like we did with Darnold, right?
Yeah, he's not going to be perfect all 17 weeks. Obviously, I'm expecting a pumpkin Daniel Jones week.
That's what I'm saying.
Week or two. Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, the guy is not going to average 9.3 yards per pass attempt all season. But I'm talking about, I wonder if there's a couple matchups where the bottom really does fall out. But overall, I mean, this level across 3 weeks is very impressive. I personally still like Jacksonville to win the division. Of course, I have close ties to Duval because Liam Cohen is the best-looking guy I've ever seen. But the Colts have really shrank that gap. I'm very interested in these next few weeks, though, for them because they have absolutely dominated 2 of their games, but they came against really bad teams. And I will always give you credit for dominating anybody in the NFL, especially if you can replicate it. Like, taking care of business, blowing out teams you're supposed to blow out, that's not a given. That's something a lot of teams struggle to do in this sport, but it is also important context that the 2 of the 3 teams they have beaten are bottom feeders at this point. They won the Denver game, obviously very close call with the leverage. So I want to see how this offense looks next week against the Rams pass rush. That feels like a kind of scary matchup where it's like, all right, let's really test how Danny Dimes does under pressure. And, I mean, they already put up 29 on an awesome Denver defense. I just want to see them replicate that. I'm way more in on the Colts than I was preseason. Maybe I still just have a little bit more hesitation with wanting to see some of these things sustained for a few more weeks before I fully buy in and say, yeah, they're the best team in the division or whatever.
Yeah, the Saints start last year definitely sticks in your mind a little bit. But they got hurt, and maybe that wasn't all their fault. And like you said, Carson Steichen is over 500 in his career as the head coach. It's not like they are some total nothing team, right? Like they're the Titans who are all of a sudden off to this hot start. Like they've been in the hunt. They've been like knocking on the door. You just didn't think that they'd take a step with Jones, right? Maybe they haven't. Maybe this is a little bit fake, but like 8-9, like 9-8, that might be good enough to win this division.
And they won 8 games last year.
On pace for that.
They won 8 games last year with horrible quarterback play across Richardson and Flacco, some of the worst quarterback play in football. And Daniel Jones is operating at a significantly higher level than that. And I don't know if he can sustain something very close to what he's doing, but I don't think he's going to drop to a lower level than what those guys were giving you combined last year, just based on what we've seen from him so far. So
Taylor probably missed a month last year too, if maybe more.
He is unbelievable, man. I'll tell you what. There's nothing I love more than an elite running back who sticks around and who does it year after year. Because we talk about it's the position most replaceable, shortest lifespan. But when you can just keep doing it for the better part of a decade, which Jonathan Taylor has not done yet, but I mean, we're talking about this is his 6th year, and he's been pretty consistently awesome, but this could be the best year of his freaking career if he keeps this up. Shout out to him. Shout out to them. They are the no-brainer choice for the positive surprise. Let's flip this on its head. I actually think this question is more interesting. Theo, I'll start with you. Which team has disappointed you most so far?
Disappointed me most? Probably, man. Maybe
it's too painful to even speak about. I see it in your eyes.
I think so. I mean, I didn't have high expectations for the Bengals. I didn't have high expectations for the Texans. I didn't. Maybe it's the Raiders.
Yeah.
Based on my expectations. I just really thought that they had improved just more than any other team in the offseason, going from Minshew to Geno and getting Genty and, you know, Bowers obviously already being there. I thought they could hold it together with the receiving core. Obviously, Myers has gotten off to a pretty good start, and Thornton wasn't a bad find either. But the line has just been...
Tucker just had the 4th quarter of his life.
Trey Tucker, shout out. Like, and they haven't even been like too horrifically terrible, I think.
That was a
but they just have been so disappointing based on my expectations. And the line, the blocking, the ability to pass off stunts, the communication on combos and climbs, like they're just leaky everywhere. So yeah, there's a bunch that still needs to get done. Maybe as Ashton Genty gets his feet wet over the course of the season, it can look a little bit better. I don't think his vision has been fantastic either. I think that he's really picked some bad holes and gone east and west way too much. So maybe that's something that he kind of adjusts and the line starts to gel and Bowers gets a little bit healthier. I don't think they're totally out of it yet, which is why they didn't come to mind immediately. But with this beginning of the season, yeah, they're pretty disappointing.
I would probably go with the Raiders as well. Like you said, I was totally out on the Texans, which is funny because I had both the Texans and Raiders winning 8 games, but it was a very pessimistic 8 games with the Texans, and it was an optimistic 8 games with the Raiders. The vibes were different in my head. I'm like, I'm high on this team. I'm low on this team. The Raiders have one more win up to this point, but I just thought this last week was really ugly. And overall, I have just been so disappointed by the offensive line. I mean, I viewed this situation as an upgrade for Geno, as a Geno truther, as an owner of 98% of the American stock of Geno Smith plushies, a very proud owner. I thought the world is going to see what happens when you upgrade a situation from the offensive hell that he was in Seattle with an absolutely abysmal offensive line, poor run game. The weapons are better in Vegas. I thought the offensive line would be better. The offensive line has still been terrible, dude. I mean, Geno is 4th in pressures and pressure percentage faced. Every matchup they've really struggled to protect. Like, shout out to Washington, honestly, because their defensive front and their pass rush has been better than I expected. They've been good. But the Raiders' offensive line has been so bad. And it's not just the pass protecting. It's run blocking, too. Genty is 43rd of 45 qualified players in yards before contact per attempt. So maybe part of that is him, right, not picking the right holes, being too east and west. But nevertheless, when you're bottom three, it says a whole lot about your offensive line and their inability to get push and to create good running lanes for you. Like, I do think Genty has his own issues. I have been disappointed by him in a vacuum. I also just think, like, he hasn't been able to make plays in space in certain one-on-one situations. He just hasn't been dynamic, but he's also having life made very hard on him. Geno also, right? Like, he played a bad game week 2, but I do believe in him very deeply with all my heart. And I think he's actually, I mean, he was amazing week 1, week 3. They never really had a chance. He still put up good numbers, but like, all of their issues start with horrible trench play. And then the defense has been pretty bad. They've struggled against the run. They've struggled against the pass. The Washington game was really discouraging to me on that front, like getting diced up by the Marcus Mariota Commanders like that, being totally helpless against the run. I was optimistic because I like a lot of the key offensive guys, Geno, Bowers, Myers, Genty, coming into the year for sure. But my optimism about this team has just taken a hit with how terrible the offensive line has been, Genty having some issues, and the defensive issues. So the Raiders would probably be my choice as well.
I got some good candidates here. I think the Raiders are a good shout. I thought they were going to win 8 games. That kind of seems like a pipe dream right now. The Texans are probably the obvious choice. I thought the Texans were going to make the playoffs again, not because I thought the offensive line was good. I thought Stroud would be able to mitigate some of that. He hasn't. I was banking on the pass rush and C.J. Stroud, and they're dead last in points per game. They're dead last in red zone percentage, third down percentage. So I'm just out on Houston. The other 2 teams I would shout out just with my expectations, Atlanta has been really disappointing to me, especially after this last week against Carolina. Like Penix, that's the worst game I've seen Penix play in his professional career. And then the other team I think I'd shout out would probably be Denver. Just because, like, Bo Nix has looked even worse than I expected Bo to look. Like, you know, I thought none of us have been the highest on Bo Nix, but
let's all get in our bags here. Let's get rocks thrown at Theo's car if we can.
I thought that Bo Nix was going to be like a guy who could steer the ship, and he's been a wreck. He's been a wreck at quarterback so far. So, like, I don't know. The way that Denver has lost these games has been really disappointing to me. Not that I've been disappointed. Like, the defense looks how I expected them to look. It's really just been Bo Nix and his incompetence. This is one of the best situations you could walk into as a quarterback, and I think he has been horrendous. So those 3 teams really stick out to me.
Yeah, it sucks that Greenlaw hasn't been there for them. The linebackers in coverage have gotten torched. They play so much man, and guys like, you know, Tyler Warren have just cooked them. Last week they had some issues with it as well. I don't think Bo Nix is the only problem. I mean, Denver's defense isn't number 1 or anything this year, and that's what I think the expectation was. Mm-hmm. But Bo Nix week 1 against the Titans was as bad as quarterback play gets in the league from starters. I think he's been better these last 2 weeks, but it's still mostly screens. It still feels like the leash is on him. It still feels like if you took that off of him and he had to overcome a deficit or even like a 3rd and long, it just isn't going to happen unless he scrambles, which he's good at.
I think if you are somebody who was in on the Broncos, and none of us were this because of the Bo Nix tax, but like the people who got really excited, looked at this roster and said, this is like a sneaky Super Bowl contender, then you have to be super disappointed because it's just so clear. I mean, when you go up against a team like the Chargers, the difference in quarterback play is just so drastic. It feels insurmountable when you come down to a gotta-have-it drive. Like, one dude is able to elevate, and the other dude, you feel like he's holding his team back, and he's inaccurate and erratic. And, I mean, he misses a couple of throws that you just gotta have, Bo did. A couple of game-swinging throws, the flea flicker, the throw up the sideline to Sutton. Like, it's just painful to miss those. But ultimately, I do feel like I'm still very confident in Denver's defense because I think their offensive line is good. I think their play calling is very good. I think Sutton is a stud. I think Dobbins has been awesome.
I think Denver could miss the playoffs.
They could, but I wouldn't pick it.
I mean, I don't think I'd pick it. I just think Bo Nix has been
But who's replacing them, Logan? Let me ask you that.
Well, I mean, like I'm higher on the Colts and the Jaguars. I could see both of them making a playoff push. I'm not going to take the Chiefs to not miss the playoffs. I'm going to take the Chargers to win that division. Right. The Bills, I feel like, are a lock. So I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, they could still again sneak in as like a wild card team again. I just feel like,
because here's all I'm going to say: the teams that you just named, there's still a playoff spot out there. Like, and that was giving 2 playoff teams to the AFC South.
Yeah,
I think true. The AFC is just weaker than maybe we would have expected. And the Bengals feel like they're totally out of the mix. The Raiders underwhelming. The Patriots, who have this easy schedule to capitalize on, and they could easily be 2-1.
New England could. New England could. Yeah, that would. I agree,
probably. But I don't
be
think
the
they're better
team.
than Denver. Maybe they take advantage of the easiest schedule of all time, but Denver's a better football team.
If I got to bet on one team to go 9-8 and make the playoffs, Logan.
True.
I know what team I'm betting.
Oh, no. You shouldn't. You should bail on them with the quickness, Theo.
He is so horrified by the defense that he's seen, Theo.
There's no way this team. There's no way this team wins 9 games this year, bro. There's no way.
The defense is pretty atrocious. The
defense
safety
is the
and
worst.
linebacker layer is not good.
It really dude, Peyton Wilson, I found a fun stat about the Steelers. 158.3 opposing passer rating allowed, 7 of 7 over 100 yards.
Well, what do you want the guy to do?
Guard somebody. Dude, they can't cover, they can't tackle, they're slow, they can't get pressure, and if the Patriots didn't gift us 5 turnovers, we would certainly be 1-2. That was one of the ugliest wins. The defense sucks, and Rodgers sucks, and the Steelers suck. Yeah.
DK's good, at least.
DK still got it. DK definitely. And Jaylen Warren, God bless him, man. Jaylen Warren's really good.
I want to revisit Atlanta because I felt like after 2 weeks, I was like, okay, this is a team that has some playoff potential. Like, that's a possible outcome for them. And then they played as bad a football game as anybody has. I mean, getting beaten by 30 by the Carolina Panthers is worthy of relegation, man. I really don't know what to do with Penix because I feel like coming into this game...
I mean, we can just call it. Like, 0 against the Panthers defense has me ready to just
call it?
Call it.
Like, wow.
Somebody was calling him Desmond Ridder 2.0.
I mean, there's just an inconsistency with him. There is some of this erratic inaccuracy, sometimes just being totally out of sync with his receivers. He's 33rd in completion percentage over expected. Like, I just don't know if I can be that out after a truly horrible game. Because, like, I feel like coming into that, I was on the side of liking what we'd seen from Penix over a handful of starts. Like, obviously, he still had some of these same accuracy issues, but overall, I thought the processing, the arm talent, is pretty good. But this was terrible. This is a terrible, terrible game.
He has A+++ arm talent, and he was aggressive at points last year and really got rewarded with some great throws. Like, his last game against Carolina at the end of the season was, like, fantastic. But overall, I just feel like he's had so many knee surgeries, and I just feel like he just turns like a battleship. And it not only affects him when he's running, it affects him when he's reading the field even, because he just can't, like, quickly reset and bring his feet with his eyes from read to read to read. Like, he's really so stuck in.
That's what happened on that swing pass pick 6 he threw.
I haven't even watched 1 second of that game. I'm not even gonna lie to you. This is some of the worst sports podcasting ever. Like, if you're a Falcons fan, I'd be disgusted in Nerd Sesh right now, bringing on somebody who did not watch the game at all.
And then
to talk about what happened.
Out.
And I'm out. I'm out on the box score of 30-0. And I just know in the past, Penix has had issues like getting through his reads with his feet, and I have to think that was just crippling. In scoring 0 against the Panthers, I mean, it's like scoring negative points against another team. Like, it's the Panthers' defense has been
terrible.
Yeah, just
the worst.
Just the worst. Maybe they've been a little bit better this year. Maybe I got to die. I mean, clearly they're a little bit better. Man. They would not have shut out anybody last year.
Well, they were down 20-3 in the first half of both of their first 2 games. I mean, they got dogged, and I think it said infinitely more about Atlanta losing like that. I mean, it was so much more on them. Everything went wrong. They had the missed kicks, but the Penix picks, I mean, especially the pick six, was just awful. So it's concerning when, even though he's only in his first handful of career starts, he is also in his late 30s. I mean, he's an old fella.
Exactly.
What's going to happen with this 2024 draft class where we had 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12? JJ looks bad. Bo looks pretty bad. Penix just had a horrible F- game. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I thought Caleb and May were the stars there. I wasn't very high on Daniels with all the contact he took and going over the middle. Like, I'm willing to take the L on that, but yeah, I think he's going to be fine. He does have to take less hits, though. He's currently injured.
True.
And then everybody else who got drafted was just, like, overdrafted.
Yeah, no, I think that is true. I do still believe in all of the big three. I think all the big three are going to be studs, which that's where this draft was strongest. Obviously, at the quarterback position, there was definitely a clear, like, multiple teardrop probably to the next guys. But it's interesting how quickly it feels like it gets to make or break mode. We'll see how Penix responds. I'm not going to say that I'm out, but that's about as concerning a performance as you can have. So we'll see how he responds. Anything else that we want to touch on, gentlemen? Anybody else who's disappointed us? Or should we just wrap this podcast up? And on a high note, slinging box score takes.
Slinging box score take. Here's one more take based on the film. I'm not out on San Francisco. I think that they're up there with the top of the AFC.
Ooh, with the top.
NFC. Yeah. NFC. I think they're up there with the Green Bays and the Detroits. Even with Nick Bosa being out, I think they've got that much star power. I think they're a tier above Tampa, and I think they're a tier.
You think they can maintain the defense to what level without Bosa?
I think they can maintain the defense at kind of a league average-ish, maybe a little bit above level, because I hold Warner in such a high regard. I think Michael Williams has looked really good, and Bryce Huff is a pretty good replacement. Pearsall has looked like a really great contributor. McCaffrey, I don't think he's the same, but they're leaning on him, and he still has some gravity. And B-Rob's not a bad backup either. Like, Williams, Pooney, Kittle coming back. Like, will they ever stay healthy? Probably not. But I do think that they're 3-0 despite all these injuries, and that speaks to like just how good of a roster they really are. And I think if Bosa's the only guy they have out at the end, like, they'll be good. Is that going to happen? Probably not. So maybe they're a tier below Detroit and Green Bay because of that. But like, I have been encouraged by what I see from San Francisco, and I think like the zombie Niners are like a little bit scary.
They do feel so zombified, man. You like them more than the Rams?
Oh, I guess the Rams are up there too, because I love the Rams. They disappointed me greatly blowing it versus Philly.
Yeah.
And their linebackers and corners are not like San Francisco's. But shout out Puka Nacua, though.
He's a stud. Well, and their pass rush is also not like San Francisco's in a good way.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Fucking mega pass rush. That's interesting. I mean, I think the Niners probably make the playoffs. I had them in the playoffs preseason. It's good for them to get off to a 3-0 start, even though it hasn't been pretty. But I think also when we talk about the defense, I mean, you just got to give Saleh credit, because without significant change in the talent on this defense, they have gone from one of the absolute worst units in football to an impressive start on that side of the ball. And I just think they're so well coached. I mean, to me, yes, there are still premier players on this football team, but they win when those premier players are out. You know, they win without Bosa, they win without Kittle. Like, obviously, Ayuk, we have no idea if and when he'll be back, what he'll look like, but Shanahan just gets the most out of the offensive personnel, and Saleh gets the most out of the defensive personnel. It's very impressive.
And Warner is so valuable, it's crazy. Like, he is the Gobert of the NFL, where it's like he just shuts down the entire middle. Like, they play quarters, they play too high. The linebacker and the nickel, like, they go to the flats, right? And it's just Warner there. And, like, no one even looks at him. Like, the corners, they're playing outside leverage, funneling it all to Warner. And he just, like, that people just don't look his way. So, I don't know. I feel like Bosa being out is, like, a great perimeter defender being hurt. But you still have Gobert that's everything is funneling to, and you have some pretty good backups on the bench, plus really potent offense potentially. Like there are just enough like heavy hitting pieces that can erase some deficits, and some developing pieces that are coming along nicely, where it's like, okay, obviously Huff isn't as good as Bosa, but the collective whole is coming along nicely enough as the season goes on, where it's like I can see them like kind of responding to this nicely. And I think with him out, it's going to be a lot of hand waving out the 49ers. Like, oh, they're too injured. They're too like, they're just over for them. They're 3-0, but it's over. I don't know, man. The 49ers are scary. They scare me. They're a Halloween monster. They're dead. Their face is falling off. Their arms are falling off. And they've been shot. And it's a horror movie, right? You shot them. They've been the villain has been killed, and then he's just back, and that's them.
They just keep coming. Logan, what do you think?
It's a bold take. This feels like a cop-out answer. I am waiting for the bottom. I'm waiting for them to kill the zombie. I think the zombie's going to die. I think that the leg probably falls off, which is McCaffrey. I think maybe Big Trent falls off. We lose another leg. Yeah, I'm waiting for the wheels to fall off. But I like the take. And, if Bosa is the only significant guy that they lose, I can see it. I mean, they're exceptionally well coached. They're really talented still. I really do trust Purdy as like a regular season quarterback. So
you mean McCorkle?
I like it. It's bold.
McCorkle has won the job.
It's over. It's over for Purdy.
I've seen it up.
Purdy will never work. He can go back to – he can be an offensive assistant at Iowa State.
One guy was a first-rounder and the other guy was Mr. Irrelevant. Tells me all I need to know. I look at when you were drafted, and that is how I judge you for the rest of your career. So, McCorkle, one of the greats.
Jamarcus Russell, greatest quarterback ever.
He was a hell of a talent. He threw the ball 70-something yards from his knees, Logan. You know anybody else who can do that? Probably not.
Jeff George.
Jeff George, also one of the GOATs. We can go on and on. It doesn't apply to Troy Aikman, though. Unfortunately, he did suck. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I make the rules for my criteria. Theo, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for that bonus take at the end about the Niners. My brother will hopefully be excited to hear that. He doesn't listen to the show. He's fake in that way, but hopefully, I'll tell him and it'll alleviate the worst week ever with the Nick Bosa news and nothing else of note. Everybody go support Theo everywhere. Go follow him. Phenomenal football content on TikTok, of course, and go listen to the Stay Hot podcast with our darling friends, Matthew Sponhour and Bladen Kirk. And also go subscribe to their Patreon. We did an episode over there with talking about the NBA, still relevant because it's all just preseason talk. So go support them there. And anything I missed there, Theo?
Yeah, it's more relevant than ever. No, you didn't miss anything. I'm about to go turn this off and then record the Stay Hot podcast immediately.
Wow.
So it's going to be a marathon, and it's going to be a great episode.
And if you guys have to choose which one you listen to, you only have a certain amount of time, please choose ours.
Well, you've already listened to it if you've made it to this point.
Well, a lot of people, they sort of like to do it like
both.
No, they do the same approach as where you got to go right to the end of the book to see what
how it ends, how the
podcast. Yeah, well, because that's when we get a lot of our dynamic, like edging stuff in. The wheels sort of come off, and sometimes Logan will take his top off, and we like to have fun at the end of the pod. You guys can also go listen to the Stay Hot podcast. It's a phenomenal listen, and actually you should, and actually I demand that you do. And now I'm changing my answer. Go listen to that one instead of this one. To those who came right to the end, as many of you do. If you want more of our stuff, it's all on our YouTube channel. You can listen to the show across all audio platforms, and you can follow us across social. Nerd Sesh on TikTok and Instagram, nerd_sesh on Twitter, and you can join our Discord if you want to chat with the gang there. So with that, one last big thank you to Theo. Everybody go check him out. He's the GOAT. And as always, I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.